Hey everybody, welcome back to Gray Area. My name's Alex, and today we have SOEL in the house. How are you doing today?
Good, good. And you guys, nice to be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for guys having me today.
Absolutely. Well, I always like to start things off by talking about what artists were doing at their earliest age. I know you had your dad was like really influential in your musical upbringing. Can you talk about like that eclectic soundscape that you were hearing as a kid and how that contributed to you as an artist?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but seriously, my father was really like a collecting vinyls and cassette tapes, and was listening to a lot of blues and a lot of jazz, Louis Armstrong, the usual, Miles Davis, and Ray Cooder, a crazy legend,
Yeah.
Mississippi Brothers, and all the people in Louisiana and stuff like that. So a lot of black music, a lot of soulful music, a lot of also Middle Eastern music that influenced my productions a lot.
Right.
A lot of orchestra stuff. Because we have here in Milan. So I was born in Milan, in Italy.
Right.
Here we have La Scala, which is like temple around the world, but
Yeah.
classical music and opera and stuff like that. So all this stuff combined and everything, and that's the result.
Absolutely. Um,
Yeah.
Something I found about I used to be in a boys choir, and
Yeah.
we traveled to Europe once a year to sing
Yeah.
there, and this was in the 90s. And one thing I've noticed about European music culture is maybe because there's a lot more history there with music culture. There's a
Yeah.
wider acceptance of all music in general, and I feel like people in Europe are have like a stronger basis to like inform themselves on music. Do you feel like
Um,
growing up in Europe
I
had
agree. I
good?
agree with that, but not totally. I
Mm,
would say that in terms of music, the real, if you want a metaphor, want to call it sponge, is actually the United States,
interesting.
because I think they've been like absorbing every kind of music from people coming from South America or people coming from Europe and
Right.
stuff like that. And I think they've been more open to that, more than Europeans, actually. In my opinion, yeah, I think more United States than Europe. Europe have this great culture, but about classical music,
Right.
Germany, Austria, Italy, France, with back then medieval era, that's I think they stick, let's say, to that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
They're just like in the last years, I think they are more open you know, to stuff coming, I don't know, from immigrants coming from, I don't know, from Africa or Middle East or Asia in general. But just in the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years, US was more of a sponge, let's say, years ago than now, you know?
I love to hear that. Interesting that you say that.
Um,
Especially considering your background too. So do you feel like when you've come to the US, I know we
yeah,
talked about this a little bit before we started, but you were talking about coming to like San Francisco and how
yeah,
people were so cultured and open to what you were playing. Um,
yeah.
do you find that all over the United States?
Not all over, obviously. Wherever you go is totally different. I mean,
Mm,
for example, I know that in my sets, talking about like Europe, I don't know if I go to France in a certain city, for example, if I play in Paris, and then the day after I'm going to the south, I know that the set will be totally different because I know the type of crowd and the type of music. Regarding the US, I know that now that when I'm going to San Francisco, I play a certain kind of music and a kind of different set than when I'm playing Los Angeles or, for example, in Atlanta.
right.
People are totally different and they dig totally kind of different kind of music. You know what I mean? So yeah, everywhere you go, it's different. And if you ask me, for example, well, how do you know that? I mean, what if you go and play in a new city which you've never been before? I mean, I would tell you that I was a clubber,
Right.
and by being a clubber, I know, like, I started to read the crowd, and by reading the crowd, I when you play a set, you do some first tests, and you see by reading the crowd what they like, what kind of crowd they are, what they like, and then from there you create the story, you know.
Absolutely.
So it's all about that, you know.
So when I'm glad you mentioned being a clubber because that's kind of like that's where you started your love affair as it were with dance music. Can you talk about when you first fell in love with dance music and what initially drew you towards the dance floor?
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, so here in Europe, we are lucky. We are not like in the United States where you to be a clubber, you pretty much have to go, you have to be 21.
Right.
Here, let's say we don't have that kind of rule. Let's say, I mean, you have to be 18 at least,
Right.
but they don't really check you out all the time here, so they don't really care. So I've been a clubber since I was 16 years old. I've been going around to Europe and festivals and clubs and stuff like that. Every single time I had a break from school or a weekend off or something like that, me and my friends would just simply jump on a train or a low fare freaking airplane and then just
Right.
go wherever. I mean, I did like over 15 time warps festivals,
Wow.
Germany, Italy, and then Holland, or Monegros festivals during the summers. They're huge, enormous festivals in Spain.
Right.
So yeah, that's what it is. Or even small clubs. There was one of my favorite was Cocoon Club in Frankfurt, which was owned by
That's
Sven.
Sven's, yeah.
Was yeah, it was totally beautiful, insane club. Well, then also there was Berlin, and it was like huge, like a lot of things. Rex Club in Paris, like I can mention like thousands of them. So yeah, I mean, it was all about that. I was a clubber. Me and my friends just having fun during the weekends. That's it.
And at what point did you like decide or start to like move into wanting to be in front of people, like controlling the dance floor?
Well, yeah, but that was gradually. I was like, while I was clubbing, I'm like, wow. I was like thinking about the IDs that the artists were playing at the night where I used to attend. And I'm like, ah, I wish I knew this track. And then I go back home. I used to like to try to find the ID of the tracks
Yeah.
and then collect them and then say, well, how this is done? So I start to get into productions too. So I was like very curious of how this type of tracks were like produced and everything. So one thing after the other, it was a gradual and natural. And then when you go to event, you start to meet also artists. You you meet assholes, you meet nice ones. The
Right.
nice ones, they're very nice. They teach you a lot, you know, and also you learn from other artists' mistakes, other people mistakes on how to behave and everything. And things are gradually like growing, you know. So that's what it
Sense.
is.
I love that. Um, you talk a lot about losing yourself on the dance floor, and I know like that's something that happens in music easily, whether you're like a dancer or whether you're on stage as a performer. Um, and I feel like you've brought that into your music quite a bit. Just the way that your music is produced. Can you talk about like think back to a particular time that happened to you before you were performing?
Ah, well, but I can mention like like
Probably happened
tons
hundreds
of
of
them.
times, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can like one that comes to my mind right now was like every single time there was a Time Warp Festival in Germany, which is the main one in Mannheim,
Yeah.
close to Frankfurt. There was a pre-event in Offenbach at this legendary club called Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
And usually you have like people like from Ricardo Villalobos and other people like that. So it happened once that we were at this pre-event before the festival, the day before, and it was Ricardo Villalobos playing. And as I mentioned to you before, um, I have, let's say, Middle Eastern culture. I grew up with this kind of music and
Right.
everything. And at 3 a.m., not 3, 4 a.m., Ricardo Villalobos like just played this random singer from Iraq or Syria or whatever. And I know that I know this kind of music
Right.
and was like such a not really random thing, but such a surprise, but in a positive way,
Yeah.
you know, because maybe people, my friends and the people that were in the club back then, they didn't know what it is, but just went crazy. So that was just like such a crazy moment that I would never forget, you know that that's the power of the artist and the DJ, like coming up and playing such a thing that nobody knows, or at
Yeah.
least there. in the club nobody knows about. So that was something that I would never forget, and was such a delightful moment, you know.
I love being surprised on the, I love being on the surprised on the dance floor. And as a DJ myself too, I love surprising
Yeah,
people on the dance floor. I love that moment where you stop, where you see someone stop and
yeah,
like kind of look around. They're like, whoa, what was that? And then
yeah,
they start dancing again because you know you've really like captured something in that moment. You've created something in that moment.
yeah,
And it's really like fantastic to like experience that on the dance floor too.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, so you recently taught, you know, you recently announced that all of your sets going forward are going to be live or hybrid sets.
Yeah.
And after DJing for so long, I I want to understand why do that? Like, what's behind the move to changing what you're doing on stage?
It's not really like I think you get nowadays you get easily bored, but like everything, and maybe just like play other people's tracks. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great tracks produced nowadays that get released every single day.
Yeah,
But what I like to do is that besides playing my own productions, I like also, maybe I don't know, make some edits or remix of actual tracks and
right.
actually play them during my live sets or hybrid sets. And I don't know, I produce so much music, so much music that I think the only way to really express myself it's by playing only live. You know.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. It's just I think it's a creative point of view, honestly. And sometimes just like DJ sets are not, something that satisfy me all the time.
Interesting.
So
Do you feel like now that you're able to do this, will you reproduce more, or you'll be like more confident like playing out like stuff that you might not ever release? Are you going to find yourself like just playing everything that you have if you have such a large category of catalog of music?
well, I was counting the other week. I have like pretty much 39 hours of unreleased music, but of different genre. And I
Right.
was like thinking, I can play this in every kind of situations. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, like from an ambient electronic event in an art gallery to like a hard techno event. Even though it's not really me, people maybe don't know me because of that. They
Right.
simply don't know that I have such a large such
Catalog.
a large amount of music and
Yeah.
different genres. So yeah,
That's so great that you have all of this music across all these genres, and now that you're doing things in a different way, you'll be able
yeah,
to find you're finding like new avenues to express yourself. Like
yeah,
you have ways to express yourself in every situation. It kind of goes back to what you were saying before about being in different cities and playing differently for different people.
yeah,
You've created like a catalog of music where you're able to do that like
yeah,
completely on your own.
yeah. The best thing for me are playing all night longs, for
Yeah.
example, and I'm able to play a lot of my music because you see like the experience on some artists, and I learn a lot from a lot of big artists because
Hmm.
of that. Uh, it's like when you start from the beginning, literally from midnight to 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. when they close or whatever, you see like a story has been created
Yeah.
from the beginning, starting with chill or ambient electronic music, and then slowly going up, then a little bit of dub techno, and then going slowing, hiring the BPMs, then going up, something more melodic, more trippy. And then you
Yeah.
end up with really techno, and then surprising track at the end. You know,
Right.
that's the best way, in my opinion, to express yourself. And then both as a producer
Yeah.
or simply as a DJ. There are so many artists. Well, we don't have to forget the fact that there are also out there DJs that they are only DJs that have no interest at all in being producers,
Right.
and producers that they care more about the production side, like me, instead of DJing.
Right.
So that's what it is.
Nice. Well, it's nice. It's nice to understand that there's both sides to that equation, and that you can now like support like an entire open to close set with just all of your own work. That's fantastic.
I mean, I have, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of inspirations. I mean, it's not that everything just come up as it is, you know.
Yeah, of
I
course.
art, fashion, you know. I used to go a lot to the because I'm from Milan, so a lot of fashion shows here
Right.
in Paris too. I watch a lot of movies. Really, like, very passionate about sounds design, about people that create music for movies and stuff like that. So it's not just like stuff that is just happening like this, you know. It's
Yeah.
like you get inspired by everything, you know, everything, really.
What do you think to your audience would be some of the most surprising music that you have in your catalog that people haven't heard yet?
Wow. You know, it's kind of difficult and tricky question
Hmm.
because um, the audience that, not all of it, obviously, that I have right now, maybe just know the melodic
Right.
stuff that I did, but this pretty much they don't know that I actually also have tracks for under another alias that have been played by like really heavy techno artists, a Berghain, a Trezor,
Oh
or I
wow.
have electronic stuff that it's more like ambient and chill and has been, you know, supported by other artists of the ambient, you know, category, you know.
Right.
So it's not easy really to answer to that question, you know. I don't know. All I can say is that I will for sure release most of these tracks on my label Rockler Records, which I
Nice.
did already just in last EP, and I had these remixers, Recondite, Vril, Darsberg, and Luigi Tozzi, which I can tell you, I can assure you that, and it's
Yeah.
not really easy artist to have on board, you know, and to please in terms like having the right projects for them, you know.
Right. Absolutely.
Um, uh, then yeah, I'm gonna also open a new label
Cool.
for electronic and ambient music solely with a friend of mine, partner from New York, called Ora,
Nice.
and his name is Federico, his real name, but his artist name is Ora. He's a great artist, great producer, and also great analog music reviewer, analog equipment reviewer,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're gonna see more very soon then.
I love to hear that. Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing that. That's awesome.
yeah,
I want to talk about, you've said that you have, despite the fact that you have like such a rich background in music and your dad exposed you to all this wonderful music when you were younger,
yeah,
you have like no formal musical training,
yeah,
but
correct.
your music is so like lush and orchestrated and full of sonic depth. How have you developed such like an intense musicality over the years?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, honestly, I think our brain, uh, again, using the metaphor of the sponge, is really a sponge. When
Mm,
you get exposed a lot, simply because you're curious and you like something, I
yeah.
think things will come naturally, in my opinion. Of course, you gotta, you know, work on it, like make mistakes constantly, you know. If
Yeah.
you are not lucky enough to have somebody that really actually help you out there, which are not really many, I
Yeah.
can tell you, assure you that, unless whatever the people that go to have, you know, like lessons and stuff like that, go to school, production school and stuff like that to learn the basics, totally fine with that. But actually, nobody actually teach you to be creative, you know. So I think simply it's coming naturally, just being exposed to art in general,
Huh?
going to, I don't know, to the theater, going to see a painter or something like that,
Yeah.
fashion show too, food experience, you know, all
Mm.
this stuff combined, you know, just go home inspired and you do stuff, you know.
Absolutely. Well, that kind of leads me to my next question. Like, this is a really great segue, but you've talked a lot about how you're inspired by what surrounds you,
Yeah,
art and music and different cultural experiences, not just music, but everything. Um,
yeah.
how has that inspiration changed between Milan and New York?
Well, a lot.
Because they're such different cities.
Oh yeah, they are. I can tell you, well, nothing negative to say about Milan because I was born here. It's my city and I love it so much. so
Yeah.
much art, so much culinary experience, so much fashion shows, events, and stuff like that that inspire you constantly. But honestly, in my opinion, New York is the best city in the world.
Mm.
Really. I used to do some crazy stuff. For example, waking up at 5 a.m. and going to the bridge with my computer and just sitting there and writing stuff on my headphones and MIDI controller, little thing. Then just get back home and then actually finishing the project. You know, just
Fantastic.
looking at the city, Manhattan, it's for
Yeah.
me just an insane thing. You know, it's just absolutely beautiful. You know, and it inspires you a lot, really, like all the buildings, the lights, you know, it's just something that you cannot find anywhere else. And I don't know why, but there are a lot of buildings everywhere in the world, Hong Kong, Qatar, whatever, Dubai, but I don't know, but there is something upon New York that it's, I don't know, it's really magic. It's a
Yeah.
city that really gives you energy. You cannot just sit and be lazy in your couch at home, really. It gives you this energy. You just want to do things
Yeah.
constantly, you know? And you
100%.
cannot find this anywhere in the world. Trust me. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I don't know. But seriously, not anywhere in the world. You cannot find this.
That's actually, that I've been to New York and I would say that's definitely 100% true.
Yeah,
And it's, there's a reason why it's called the city that never sleeps, right? I mean,
correct.
there
Yeah,
that energy just permeates through everything in New
yeah,
York. It's just like it's a part of the city.
yeah,
It is what it is.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. When you started producing, your songs were a little bit groovier into what you produce now, which is like, a little bit darker and more melodic.
Yeah.
How did that progression happen over time?
Well, people start with certain ideas and stuff like that, and eventually, you know, uh, people develop their own taste.
Yeah.
Simple as that, you know. With time, you find, as I said before, human beings get bored very easily,
Yeah.
you know, and try always to find, new ideas, new creative ways to, I don't know, being, I don't know, being stimulated, I don't know, being alive, you know.
Yeah.
So naturally, people develop their own taste. And as people pass, maybe not just me, other in the past, from groovy stuff to maybe more melodic stuff and trippy, things will change again,
Yeah.
maybe in a year or more, you know? So that's
So
what it
you
is.
you don't see yourself having any limits over what you could produce in
No,
the
because
next
if you
six
have
months to a
limits,
year.
no, because if you have limits and you think, well, that's what I'm doing right now, that's it, that's what it is, then you're not really passionate about what you're doing.
Mm,
And you're doing this because of maybe for money or something like that.
right.
And you're not doing this because you are actually really, you know, passionate about music.
Yeah.
Being passionate about music, it means also being like evolving, you know,
Yeah. Well, it's about
and
being
evolving
open.
your taste too,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and while we're on the note of like, being open and evolving your taste, you have an upcoming song with Rinzen that you guys have been teasing that is absolutely gorgeous. I'd love
Oh,
to know the story behind that song and how the two of
thank
you
you.
hooked up and like created that together.
So pretty much me and Rinzen, I wrote to him over 2 3 years ago because I heard an EP.
Mhm.
So one thing, so my brother helps me with the promos and stuff like that when I receive them and stuff like that.
Right.
So I listen to this promo that my brother, like, he does this filtering thing,
Right.
because sometimes you receive stuff that don't really, like, it's not really for you.
Yeah.
And so he helps me with this filtering thing. So he sent me his EP and he said it's really good. And he got this orchestra vibe. And I guess was released, I don't know, maybe on Dead Mouse
Yeah.
label, which is, you think about Dead Mouse, it's EDM artists and stuff like that. But he does he released a lot, quite big range of music,
Yeah.
which I respect a lot. And I loved the AP. I simply wrote to him. It was 2 3 years ago, and then yeah, he was like really happy about that. And I played the AP many times, and then we started. I said, "Oh, let's make some music together." I said, "Why not? Sure." So we made 2 tracks back then
Yeah.
that were played by Telephile and some other artist friends from the same crew and label. And things from there developed, and then we created also this track, which is part of an EP we're also working on. And yeah, when we finished it, we start with melodies, ideas. I retweeted the track, I reworking on it, he reworking on it, he did the final mastering, and then the same night we finished it, I gave it to Telephile and they played it at Afterlife in New York. So, things develop constantly, and we're still working on new stuff. And yeah.
Love it. I love it. Um, we're getting close to the end, and I always like to, before the speed round that I've told you about, I always like to end interviews asking what excites you about the future of dance music.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's another difficult question. What excites me? I like that the people are always like their taste is always evolving. I like the fact that the crowd in general, the people, the clubbers, um, simply their taste in music change constantly. That if one day you see somebody that goes, I don't know, to ADC and listen to commercial stuff or something like that, or this type of big events, they change, and then they get interested because of these big events. They have also other rooms where there is some type of music that it's more underground,
Right.
so they get to know this kind of music, and then they develop their own taste, and then they go further and further and further. So that's what's really exciting about music, because from those type of artists to this our kind of music, it's a natural process, and that's what's really exciting.
I love that. It's you know, being brought into dance music in any way is always like a benefit to everybody. Um, and if you've been here for a while, you eventually start to find where your place is in the broad sphere of dance music. And it's always lovely to see people like get into it and like see that happen and
Yeah,
see that develop.
absolutely. Yeah.
So we're gonna get into the speed round right now.
Yeah.
I haven't told you what any of these questions are ahead of time. So are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Pizza or sandwiches?
Pizza, obviously.
Obviously. Winter or summer?
Something in between.
Not too cold, not too hot.
Not too cold, not too hot. Yeah.
Ocean or lake?
Ocean.
Intimate club or festival?
Intimate club, actually. Yeah.
Intimate club or rave?
Intimate club.
Mm.
Mm.
Jazz or the blues?
Blues.
All right. 808 or 909?
808.
And I know these ones are different, but I'm still making you choose. 808 or 303?
303.
All right.
But it depends how you use it, though.
Right. Got it. Drum and bass or hip hop?
Hip hop.
If you could have one superpower, would you choose flight or invisibility?
Invisibility.
You were only the third person to answer that in the
Yeah.
last year of interviews that I've done.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can already fly. Getting invisible, it's not really like something you can really do.
This is
And
true.
it's really interesting to
Yeah,
have that power.
absolutely. Dogs or cats?
Both? Is that possible to say that?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Analog or
Even though I'm
digital?
more a cat guy, but okay.
Dogs are awesome too.
Yeah, they are. They really are.
Yeah. Analog or digital?
It's very tricky question. I would like to stay in between two, because you can do amazing things with both.
This is true.
You just need to have a brain.
Absolutely. New York or Miami?
Oh, New York, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And finish this sentence. Before I die, I want to
Sit down with Hans Zimmer, Junkie XL, and Clint Mansell and see what's going on and ask for if he can make some drums for us.
Yes. Oh, that is a fantastic answer. Did you just see actually Junkie XL is reviving the Junkie XL name for a project. It's an upcoming project.
Yeah, I heard about that. I'm
Yeah.
really like a huge fan of him.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to us today. It's been really great, like just getting to pick your brain and hear all of your amazing answers. Again, just thank you for taking the time out. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And
Thank
we will be talking soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.